Good morning, students. Welcome to class 8. Today, as usual, we will discuss the last topic of chapter from trade to territory. Before I do start the discussion regarding the next topic that we have discussed earlier, what had happened, we want to take a recap of it. We know that the 4 European powers came to India for the purpose of trade. Just recall yourself, the first European power who came to India for the purpose of trade, it was Portuguese, then it was Dutch. Nowadays we can identify them as a Netherlands country. Holland is also it is known as, because some part of Netherlands, southwestern part of Netherlands is called the Holland. Then it came the British, then it came the French. These 4 powers came to India for the purpose of trade, and trade gives us the enormous wealth. Among these 4 powers, the 2 earlier powers that we have discussed, the Portuguese and the Dutch, they could not expand themselves much in India. They were, when saying our language, they were sidelined. Portuguese just settled in the Goa region. Then there was a conflict between the French and the British. They were the arch rivals in the Europe also. The British also had to fight against the Indian powers. There were many Indian powers against whom they had to fight. We have discussed about they have to fight against the Anglo-Mysore war we have discussed. Then they fought against the Maratha. Then they fought against the Sikh. Sindh was annexed. Sindh right now it is in the Pakistan. It means before 1947 there was no any existence of Pakistan. It was considered as the India itself. And they occupied. It means we have discussed it, the 2 policies they had adopted for the expansion of the British rule in India. One was the policy, we have discussed the 3 policies. Then we have discussed about the war. As far as policies concerns, we have already discussed the policy was the subsidiary alliance system. The most important policy that we can say was the subsidiary alliance system, and second, the most important policy was the doctrine of lapse. Subsidiary alliance system was introduced by Lord Wellesley, and doctrine of lapse was introduced by Lord Dalhousie. The claim to paramountcy was also there, but it was actually making them feel that Britishers are the superior than the Indians, and hence cannot supersede the Britishers. But expansion actually lies in these 2 policies. One was adopted by the Lord Wellesley, it was subsidiary alliance system. Another one by the doctrine of lapse by the Lord Dalhousie. Now, when they expanded, we have discussed that British rule started in India after the Battle of Buxar, but they did not have the direct control over the administrations. So 17 64 onward, means 1765, you can say. 1765 to 72, we have already discussed. It was the dual government in Bengal. Then after that, the governor generals were appointed. And two words in the previous class I have told you, don't get confused between the word governor general as well as the word viceroy. Can you remember it? Recall it? I stand reminding it. Governor General was the representative of East India Company in India, British East India Company in India, and Viceroy, he was the representative of British Crown in India. It means it was from 1772 to 1857 and then 1858 to 1947. These things we have already discussed. Now, they acquired the territory, and if they had acquired the territory, then it became necessary for them to rule it. Question is coming, how to rule it? Because the Indian culture, Indian society were quite different from the Europeans. India had the monarchy system, no problem. Most of the European countries also had the monarchy system. At the time it was getting free. But in India, the punishment to the culprit were given according to the Dharma Shastra. It means there was no any digest of law that would enable them to discuss what punishment is to give and what conditions. It means it was being given on the basis of Dharma Shastra. When we are talking about the ancient rules, it means ruler were the Hindus according to Dharma Shastra. Then medieval period, basically the rulers were the Muslims. They had the different culture from the Hindus, so they were also discussing the culprit, the punishment on the basis of their Dharma Shastra. So it was becoming very difficult. Now one more thing. To make the work easy, they had divided. If we draw roughly, drawing roughly the diagram of India and South India, and if we divide it, we can say Tamil Nadu regions, it was the Madras. And in previous class I had told you, in Madras actually the Britishers had purchased the land, and after purchasing the land they prepared the fort named Fort St. George. They had also prepared at the Kolkata, Bengal, and it was the Fort William. Now one word is coming, that is coming to presidencies. It is called presidency. One word will come. What do you mean by the presidency? Actually, in these terms we have used the word presidency, not I have used it. It has been given. It was a administrative unit of East India Company. It continued during the Crown rule also. It had 3 presidency. You can say it was the Bengal presidency, then Madras presidency, then Bombay presidency. It was Bengal presidency, then Madras presidency, then Bombay presidency. Now, what comes under the Bengal, Madras and Bombay presidency? What comes under the Bengal, Madras and Bombay? कितना आएगा? कौन सा स्टेट आएगा? कितना बड़ा समझेंगे? How long? कितना बड़ा? कौन सा स्टेट? If the words comes to Bengal presidency, क्या हमारे दिमाग में आना चाहिए? Which area is being covered? And if we are talking about the Madras presidency and if talking about the Bombay presidency, it means कौन सा area? It doesn't mean that Bengal means today's West Bengal only. If we are talking in the Madras, it was confined to Madras, today it is known as Chennai only, and Bombay means Bombay only. No, it has a different aspect. If we talk about the Bengal presidency, it consists of today's Bangladesh. Just remember, today's Bangladesh was separated from India in 1947. Before it was the Bengal, Bangladesh, today's West Bengal, Bangladesh, total West Bengal, just go a little bit north, some district of Assam was there. Then it comes today's modern state Bihar, Jharkhand and Odisha. We added Bangladesh, Bihar, Jharkhand and Odisha. It means this part, if we calculate it and summarize it, it was the Bengal presidency. Just see the political map of India. How can you confine it? What comes under the Bengal presidency? ये पॉलिटिकल मैप निकाल के तुम लोग देखोगे कि बंगाल प्रेसिडेंसी में कौन से कितना बड़ा स्टेट है। बंगाल में सिर्फ बंगाल ही नहीं था। Bengal means it was a presidency, it was the administrative unit. Later we will discuss how it had happened. It was role. Means we have discussed the Bengal presidency. Is it clear? I do hope that modern day Bangladesh, West Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand and Odisha. It was so big was the Bengal presidency. Then what comes in the Madras presidency? Madras presidency was not only confined to Chennai only. It means it was the total Tamil Nadu region. We can say today's Andhra Pradesh. One more thing, just see when you will see the map, modern political map of India, not the world one, in which you are finding a separation between Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. The lower part of this Andhra Pradesh is known as the Rayalaseema. It means this part. It means if we calculate it, this one and this one. Means as soon as we are being to Odisha and the Pradesh is starting, the coastal Andhra Pradesh, it was starting of the Madras presidency. Then we take a part of Karnataka and it is a Kerala, north part of Kerala, and then Lakshadweep. Means we have discussed about here it was the Bengal presidency. Now it was your Madras presidency. In Madras presidency, it comes the Tamil Nadu, today's Tamil Nadu. We can say today's Andhra Pradesh, because Andhra Pradesh has been separated, and Telangana. Then Karnataka, part of Karnataka, and not part of Kerala, not the total Kerala, not part of Kerala, and it is coming the Lecture3. This part was coming under the Madras presidency. It was so big one. It was not confined to Madras only. Now we are coming to the Bombay presidency. In Bombay presidency, it was the Gujarat, Maharashtra, Konkan belt, some part of Karnataka also. Konkan regions, Goa and Konkan regions there, and some part of it is also there. It means these were the three presidencies. Other than the three presidencies, there were princely states. When India got independence, there were 562 princely states. It means they were the subordinate of British rule. British had no direct rule over it. It means how? No. It means it was under the presidency. Then the other states were also there who had accepted the Sri system that we have discussed. These three presidents, and now we are talking about the administration of the British. If it is in your mind, then we can say that the British had introduced and part of the administration of British is there. We can classify it into two different departments. One is judiciary system, and one is military, or we can say police. These are the two main pillars of administrations. Police at the local level. How does the police work? Simply police arrest or find out the criminals, hooligans, and the judiciary give them the punishment according to the crime they had committed. What type of crime they have committed. Now, to see first we will see the judiciary system, then we will see the police system and military system. Now, if we are talking about simply the judiciary system. In judiciary system, what things you have to keep in mind that in judiciary system, according to regulating act, at that time we can say the first Governor General, he was the Warren Hastings. Don't get confused. One was the Warren Hastings, another name is Lord Hastings. A regulating act, a Supreme Court established at Calcutta. Supreme Court was established at Calcutta. According to Regulating Act, Supreme Court was established February of 1772 at first. To support it, 1772 a small court called the Sadr Nizamat Adalat was also introduced. Means that at the top level, now we have the Supreme Court in Delhi, then we have the High Court, then we have the subordinate court or district courts. When we will go through the judiciary system and the political science, better to say civics, we will discuss these three parts of the judiciary system. The first, they established the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court was established at Kolkata. Then it was given that each district should have two courts. We have the subordinate court or district courts. District courts, two courts. One was the criminal court. Or it was also called Fauzdari Adalat. And another one was the Diwani court. Means it was civil court was known as the Diwani Adalat and criminal court was known as the Fauzdari Adalat. Today still we have these two types of courts in our district also. दोनों कोर्ट हमारे पास अवेलेबल है. It was introduced. ये criminal court at that times it was handled by Qazi and Mufti. It means a Qazi, judges, Mufti, groups of the lawyers or judges who were supporting it, under the guidance of the district collectors. It means criminal court was in the hand of the basically in the Indians, but they were being guided by the district collectors. But this Diwani Adalat was in the hand of the collector itself, district collector. Collector means district collectors. Why they were called the collectors? Because collect करना वो लोग लैंड रेवेन्यू कलेक्ट करते थे, हेड हुआ करते थे, इसलिए उनका नाम डिस्ट्रिक्ट में डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर हो गया. Regulatory head Supreme Court Kolkata, district courts. For each district should have the two courts. It was divided into two groups. One was the criminal court, means Fauzdari Adalat. Another one was the civil court, मतलब means दीवानी. दीवानी में छोटे मोटे झगड़ा हो गया, कोई बहस हो गई, जमीन का झगड़ा हो गया. This comes under the civil court, but in the criminal court, murder, attempt to murder, dacoity, other comes in the criminal court. So these two types of court were okay, no problem. Courts were established. Now it was the Britishers were feeling it difficult to give the judgment. अरे इंडियंस है, उसको कैसे क्या देंगे, क्या सजा होगी. For this purpose, they asked the Pandits and the Pandits, 11 Pandits. Pandits means not local, they were expert in explaining the Dharma Shastra. They were called to prepare a Hindu digest law. 11 Pandits. When these 11 Pandits compiled the Hindu Digest law. When? In 1775. This element for date. Compiled the Hindu Digest law in 1775. It was compiled in Hindu language. It was translated in English by to make the work easy for the Europeans, not Europeans, Britishers. These are compilation of the Hindu Digest law by the 11 Pandits. It was translated into English by N.B. Hallett. On the same basis, in 1178, Muslim Law Digest was also created. It means it helped the British East India Company to make the decision on the basis of the Indian Dharma Shastra that was prevailing at that time. That was in 1775 and 1770. Sorry, sir. 1775 and 1778 Muslim law digest was prepared. It means from the judicial point of view, they have prepared themselves according to the Indian culture, Indian environment. They got the support of both the Hindu and the Muslims. Now comes the police. Till now we have got the Indian soldiers had the army. We are seeing also the serious and other things. They were coming on the chariots, they are coming on the other side, and they are also coming on the horsemen. If you nowadays you will be watching any epics or old serials, they will say that the two rulers are standing in front of and they give the order Akraman. Just try to see who starts fighting. सबसे आगे कौन रहता है? पैदल से, हाथ में भाला तलवार लिए सबसे आगे खड़ा रहेगा. That is called at that time they were called the infantry. उनको infantry कहा गया. सबसे आगे हो गया. आक्रमण किया, लड़ाई लड़ने चले गए, वो पैदल सैनिक होते थे, उनकी संख्या कंपैरेटिवली ज्यादा होती थी. They were followed, which means the first, before starting it, you have to understand infantry, we can say it was the पैदल सैनिक. Infantry means पैदल सैनिक. They were fighting in the front सबसे. Then we have the cavalry. Then they had the cavalry. Horsemen means we can say savar. Horsemen or savar. They are compiling the second bench, second row. First infantry, then it was the second row. Okay. In the Mughal army, cavalry were in the more in number. They were dominating the army. Chariot riders were also there, Rath Savar. But in the Mughals army, the cavalry were holding the most important positions. In class 7 you have read that the soldiers were asked to, Manasvadas were asked and asked to supply the soldiers. Now it was continued, but one more thing, these rulers were being supplied by the soldiers, by the local chief. So rulers had not to worry much. Apart from this, two estate of rulers, one was the Awadh and Banaras. Today it is known as Varanasi. These two rulers started recruiting the soldiers from the peasants. सैनिक जो गांव के किसान थे, जो तगड़े हो गए, उनको अपॉइंट करना शुरू किया अपनी आर्मी में. कौन से दो स्टेट? It was the Awadh and Banaras. It gave the East India Company a chance to appoint these type of soldiers from the peasants, and they called them as sepoy or sipahi. They also started recruiting. In the next class, next chapter, we will discuss what were the demerits or how it harmed the British East India Company. Sepoy. These sepoys were given the European types of training, drills and exercise. They were being given the European types of training. They were given the musket and the matchlock. Musket कंपेयर कर सकते हैं, बड़ा गन कंधे पर रख के चलाया गया, और मैचलॉक उसमें पाउडर बारूद भरा रहता था. आग लगाया, इंसिटेट किया, ब्लास्ट किया, बस छोटा सा तोप में भी यही बात होती है. इग्निशन किया, पहले होता है बारूद को भर दिया गया, गोला रख दिया गया, आग लगाया गया, इग्निशन किया, ब्लास्ट किया, आगे जाके गिर गया, आग लगा दिया. इट मीन्स these two types of equipments were given. What are the two types? One was the musket and matchlock. European type training. Irrespective of their caste, their religions, they all were kept at one place as they were considered as the one unit. The Sipahi were kept, and just you have to keep in mind, in those days, if we are talking about the 1700, that means almost 300 and 350 years back, the caste system in India was at the jet. Caste system, due to caste system, the peoples were not willing to be at a place or be with the different caste group or different religious groups. So it led to the revolt in 1857. Initially, these Sipahis gave them a bright chance to win the battles. They fought many battles by using the Indian soldiers. They were appointing a very less from the Europeans, because it was very difficult for them and it was also not costlier to appoint the soldiers, bringing them from the British. So they actually started appointing them locally. They were locally appointed. So we have got it. They were not only able to expand their territory. We have discussed expansion. Expansion went on from the Battle of Plassey, Buxar, then till 1856, when we can say the East India Company last annexed Awadh on the ground of bad administration or maladministration. They were continuously fighting for this to enhance or strengthening their administrative system. They had also introduced many changes. The Britishers were introducing the act after interval of 10 years, regular after 10 years, whenever they were finding that whatever rule they had made it required to be changed, they were changing it. Accordingly, they were making it. It means still we have got a rough idea, clear idea regarding the starting of the British rule in India, as well as the expansion in India and how they could administer, the British rule in India. It means the topic suggests from trade to territory. It simply explains that the British came firstly for the trade purpose. And after trade purpose, they started acquiring the territory. That's why it is called trade to territory. Don't get confused कि क्या करना है नहीं करना है. Trade to territory. Why the name of the topic is given trade to territory? Just recall, they came to India for the trade purpose. Only for the trade purpose. They got the right to trade only in the East. That's why their name came to be known as the British English East India Company. They had the conflict basically with the other European powers. How they were engaged in liberating the European power, especially the France, because we have already discussed the Dutch and the Portuguese. We have already sidelined. And after defeating the France, they were also engaged in defeating the other Indian rulers. How they made the factory. And when they got the Diwani rights after the Battle of Buxar, now they started purchasing the Indian raw materials from the India by using the Indian wealth at a cheaper price, just selling it to the Britain, finishing it, and then they bringing it to India and selling it at the high prices. It means they completely control India politically. And when they controlled India politically, they started using the Indian resources for their own benefit. That's why we can say India was the colony of British. I do hope you might have understood the concept of the chapter from trade to territory. This chapter is clear. Now, in the next class, we will discuss even to increase more revenue, what the actually Britishers did in India and how they affected the lives of the Indian peoples. did the Indian peoples revolted? And if the Indian peoples revolted, in what way they revolted, and what was the result? My dear students, this is the third lecture for the chapter from trade to territory. You peoples go through these videos very carefully, and after that you go through your textbook very carefully. Try to prepare the points, questions, topics related to these topics and enhance your knowledge. I do hope you can do it in the better way. This topic is finished. Thank you.